here. Awesome. And welcome to another episode of A Podcast. Your host, Stephen Maxted, and we have Ben, I have your last name on my phone,
Lacroix, you're so close.
Lacroix. Sorry, I forgot. This is more the French side of things. Sorry.
Right.
Push it out of the get-go here. But yeah, we recently met through, I guess we'll call it a family gathering of sorts. And we just hit it off right away talking tech. And I immediately gravitated towards chatting with you most of the weekend there. And afterwards casually said we should hop on a pod episode soon. Half joking, half very serious. Because I thought your story was so interesting and the business that you're on, or businesses, because there's kind of technically a couple here. So I'm excited to get it more today. So yeah, thanks for joining us.
No, absolutely, man. I'm happy to be here, and it is pretty funny how just like a cottage weekend, and next thing you know, we've got a podcast rocking. So I like it.
That's awesome. And Ben, let's start off with telling the listener a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into the businesses. But give them a little headline insight to your storyline here.
Yeah, for sure. So I run a company in Ottawa called Getit Technologies. I started the company back when I was in university. So we technically started as a company at the end of 2019. Essentially for us, I was at a football game, and it's pretty similar to like the story that you recently had at a concert. But I was waiting in line for like $12-$14 beers, like shitty beers, and I was like, man, like we're all paying $12 to $14. We ordered our beers. We finally get back to our seats, and we missed like a couple touchdowns. And that night, I looked at a couple of my buddies, and I said, like, how are we not able to like use our phones to pay for this? So for me, being in university at the time, I had a lot of like the ability to talk to a lot of profs and resources around Ottawa, and so I started doing more and more research. And essentially, I started a company while I was still in school. And I was able to raise a little bit of money, and to my parents' excitement, I decided to kind of drop out of school and do the whole like pace and grind and all that stuff. So I essentially met my business partner a few months after, and him and I decided to kind of go all in, just based on the opportunity and kind of what was ahead of us. And we obviously didn't think COVID was going to happen, and that was a nice little pandemic we had to navigate around. But so essentially for me, growing up, like pretty normal Canadian kid, like hockey, going to school, but I always kind of wanted to do something a little different than just the 9 to 5. Like being an athlete growing up, there's a lot of difference or similarities between like entrepreneurship and being an athlete, so I always kind of gravitated to that part. My goal was to eventually become a venture capitalist, but I felt like I had to probably start and try to successfully run a business before getting into that world. So yeah, it's pretty funny whenever people ask me like, what are you up to, or like tell us about yourself. It's pretty much just the company, because that's like 90% of my life. So pretty much that's it. Awesome. So my business partner and I run a mobile payments company for things like stadiums and hotels. And we really try to remove the friction when it comes to purchasing and donations and things like that. And really allowing people to use their phones, these supercomputers we all have in our computers, in our pockets, to essentially make transactions more easy and allow consumers to spend basically more, which is kind of funny.
That's awesome. Okay, this is coming hot off the press on my end here, and I'm going to take away, because I'm a bit of a squirrel, on that awesome intro. But have you seen the BlackBerry?
I have. Yeah.
From what you just said there too, it's just very funny. I like literally just watched it.
Honestly, man, if we could hit BlackBerry levels of success, even if we hit 10% of that, I'd be happy with this journey. So yeah, no, it is pretty crazy. The other one I really like is the Uber one. I can't remember what it's on, but it's a great kind of like Hollywood show or documentary of like the Uber story. But yeah, I love those. Another great one is The Founder. It's on Netflix. It's the McDonald's story.
Oh yeah, that one is good.
Yeah, so I love that too. Like I love seeing kind of like the struggle that people have had to go through, and just how it like you just kind of keep pushing, and hopefully and it works out in the end. But yeah, I love seeing these things about just like perseverance, some of the like crazy stories that people go through.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that part really caught my attention. But even what we just said there about having the supercomputer in your pocket, because I
Yeah.
feel like they had a similar, style line and what they wanted to do with it and their prototype and all this stuff. I mean, you're not selling the physical item, but I guess like in a way, down the road or the evolution of technology, now you're involved in part of that storyline, actually.
hmm And
Yeah,
yeah, just be a small part of it would be awesome. But yeah,
yeah,
it's pretty cool to kind of see, even outside of like the like our world, just seeing how fast technology is moving, and just seeing how like these pioneers were able to actually like execute on it, not just like build the technology, but also be able to like bring it to market, make people understand it, and then actually be able to market it and sell it. Is super cool. And I think there's also a lot to learn with these stories, even if they are obviously maybe a little more dramatic than they were in in real life. Seeing
right.
how they, what their successes came from and like where their downfalls came. Obviously, BlackBerry innovation was a big push for them now. But yeah, it's. I think there's a lot to learn from these stories too, which makes it even more interesting.
Yeah, very agreed. That's good. And how about if we were to dive into breaking down the what you guys do.
Mhm.
So maybe I'll try and I'll tee this one up, and then you can correct me, but I'll explain it in my simple brain
Yeah,
here about. And I have the website as listeners know if they're watching the video side here. If I'm looking off onto the screen, we were looking at it a minute before here too. But from my understanding, basically you've used the process of like as you mentioned before, your experience at a football game, hockey game, or concert, in terms of being able to basically scan some kind of QR code, pay for the item ahead of time, so it's easier to either go and pick up from the concession stand that's ready to go, so it's a little bit
yes,
quicker, or do they bring it to you, or is there both options?
correct. So we do both. So essentially, how we
Okay.
describe it is we build web-based super apps, and so essentially people can walk into any, we call it commercial property. So it can be anything from like one of our clients down the street here is a food court in a big commercial building, or a stadium or a hotel. But essentially, people can either tap an NFC, scan a QR code, and we build a software that essentially looks and feels like an app. You can swipe and things like that. You don't have to download anything, and it can support. We call it like multi vendors, and so essentially we build a super app for this this kind of community, or this property, and from that, as you said, you can order food and beverage is a big one. For one of the clients we're rolling out over the next month, it's for the club seats, it can come right to you, and you don't have to have that awkward kind of yelling to the server, and then they're trying to pass you the credit card machine down, right? So it's all done through QR codes. But we're also building features that are outside of just traditional food and beverage. So we do like merchant retail, for example, where you can order a foam figure or some merch to your seat, or pick
Okay,
it
yeah.
up. We also do things like donations. So we work with charities and events where people can scan the QR code, they can donate, get a tax receipt. So we're building a lot of features like that, where we are really trying to build these super apps where people don't have to download things or create accounts, and they can get the same kind of convenience as downloading a super app, but without actually having the friction of having to download. So it all integrates with like Apple Pay or Google Pay, autofill, and things like that. And really, it is about making the experience better. So whether you're in the club seats and it gets brought to you, or you're in the nosebleeds, at that point you'll get a text and saying, "Hey, Steve, your beers are ready for pickup. Come get them when you're ready." And it really
Yeah,
is about there's so much wasted time, whether it's waiting in line, walking over, where we really are trying to to make it as efficient as possible. And the other thing is, a lot of these commercial properties have so much hardware and like traditional expensive hardware. And back to the point of, we all have hardware in our pockets. So how do we, use this hardware to help eliminate some of the more, traditional and expensive hardware that everybody touches? They're gross, they break all the time, it takes forever to update them. So we really are trying to streamline the operation. And from the back end side, we're giving a lot of these commercial properties some of the data that they wouldn't necessarily have, to help them actually serve their customers better, and understand what people actually want, not just what they're estimating that people are going to want. So we really are
interesting.
trying to bridge that gap of kind of the traditional waiting in line, but we really want to help enable some of these properties to actually be able to make more, and for people to just have better experiences overall.
Yeah, and when you're talking about kind of, I get it from like the definitely what we referenced for like the
Yeah.
sports side of thing, and I think I kind of know where this is going on my next question already, but in terms of like hotels and resorts or golf and recreation, are you saying that you're gonna like now speed up the time of getting like room service with the hotel and on the golf course in terms of like not having to look for the accommodations cart. Like you call it the beer cart, but like
I don't know what, like, I'm sure you ordered room service in the past. It's a
yeah,
nightmare. Like, it sucks. It genuinely sucks. And, you know, for things like hotels, obviously on one part of it, room service is huge. Like, the amount of times I've been stuck in a hotel room on hold for 15 minutes waiting to just get
right.
wings up to my room is a nightmare. And like most people, I don't mind waiting 30 or 40 minutes for food. I get angry waiting on the phone, just like holding it like this, like just waiting, right? So, you know, so for hotels, yeah, room service is a big one, and it goes beyond room service. You know, from that QR code, you can order things like towels, things that are free, toothbrush, anything that you'd actually need instead of having to go down and pick it up. It all comes kind of right to you. And a lot of these hotels now are built where they have a coffee shop and they have all these different things around the property. So we can
Yeah.
enable all these vendors to also be part of this, you know, super web app. And once again, like whether it's, you know, someone wanting to pick up a coffee on their way to their Uber out of the hotel, you know, or room service, we can digitize that whole process.
Interesting.
You know, and it's cool for hotel chains, but it's also great because we allow smaller hotels as well to actually have technology to compete with some of these bigger hotel chains too. So it really is an affordable way for hotels to digitize, and for a guest experience, it just makes it so much better. Same thing with golf courses. Like, you know, I'm sure when you're golfing, a lot of golf courses now are starting to get rid of cart people, right? People driving around with beer. And so, you know, essentially we're trying to eliminate that spillage where instead of burning gas driving around a golf course, there's no reason why I can't tap my phone, order a beer and a sandwich, and it comes to me. Or I suck at golf, so sometimes I need balls on the 12th hole, you know, and
Hey, that's great.
house too, right? So it's
Yeah.
pretty cool in terms of that, and it allows it to, you know, it allows people to have a better experience. And the other cool thing too is we white label everything, so it has, you know, our client's branding on it. So when you use it, you know, you really feel like you're interacting with the business, and it's not some third party, you know, software in the middle.
I think that's such a huge thing that you nailed there. I think the white labeling and making that customization so that company feels like they are the first point of contact for that customer and they're seeing that logo and stuff is just so
Yeah, and
important.
they can, it's
So
cool, like,
thanks,
they
you
can
guys.
control the experience, right? Whether it's colors, logos, the look, the feel of it, they can do it all from
Yeah,
like their own dashboard, and they can change it, you know, day
yeah,
to day. Or and so we really are trying to, we're not trying to take away from the experience. We're trying to like make it more streamlined for people, and at the same time allowing businesses to have these little, you know, customizable features that make it their
that's awesome.
own.
Once someone, I guess, maybe more talking to someone if they're listening here, if they're interested in their own business, what is a tricky question about onboarding about to come here? But what does the onboarding process really look like? Because I know that's probably some of the hesitation that folks have is like, oh, I already have this system. We've had it for 10 years, maybe longer. I don't know
Mhm.
about the upgrade or the update within the
Right.
system. They know it's necessary, but they're hesitant because what they don't know is sometimes scary, which is a common thing I think that comes up in businesses. So
For sure, and you're gonna hate this answer because, like any, it depends.
yeah,
So
yeah,
for the most part, it is pretty simple. You know, we've built it where, you know, we have an awesome team that can actually build reporting, especially back end reporting to match whatever that business's back end reporting is. So right off the get go, if you want to do this, we have a team. Like, our team will build out all your menus. We'll do all that stuff for you. We'll build out all your, if you want to do donations, if you have multiple vendors, we'll put that all in the kind of the super app for you, and we can build that within 3 days once we have kind of the colors and you know, all the information we need. And from the back end, it really depends, right? So we have some clients that want full point of sale integration, which we can do, and then we have other clients
awesome.
that, you know, we can integrate just right into their printer. So when someone orders, it spits out from the printer. It looks like a normal chit, and it just gets completed from that side. And then
Cool.
at the end of the day, you know, they can either pull reports from the dashboard, or we can just email them reporting that matches their current reporting, copy paste it right into their back end, and they essentially do their accounting that way. So we've really built it where it is easy for companies to actually be able to implement it. One of the cool things about our company is, you know, we're not just, you know, engineers and tech people. A lot of our staff are also former food and beverage people. And so when we went out to build this technology, we knew that it didn't, you know, if it's easy for the guest or for the fan, but it sucks for the whether it's the stadium or the client, no one's going to use it. And so, really for us, it was about making it better for not just the user of the platform, but also our clients. So that was huge for us. Yeah. Most people are pretty choked up too when they hear how easy it
is. Sorry.
No,
Slug back this tea here.
It's
That's
all
too
good.
funny.
It is. It's fairly easy. Really, if it's a huge property like a stadium, we're probably looking at a month. But if it's a smaller business, it can be within a week or two.
That's awesome. Thanks for filling the void there. That's the problem with not having a co-host, right? I almost need like my avatar to be my backup. You can almost do that with AI now, but
exactly.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
That's good to know as far as what they'd be looking at, because people that are running businesses and are oh, pardon me, very well organized are probably thinking like half a year out. So they're able to calmly like go through that strategy and easily, look at a place where they can move it into their business.
And you never want to be an advantage. Generally speaking, we can take 90 days to do. We can take a full quarter. A lot of these businesses we work with, they work in quarters or in half years, right? So it does give us time to actually properly onboard them. And we've built it where, if it integrates right into your printer, your staff don't need to be trained that much, right? They see the chit come out if they're a food and beverage person, and they just run it like it would be a normal order. So we really try to also make it where, half an hour of training, your staff's good to go. Your managers obviously need a little more training, but for the most part, it's pretty easy to use. And, it's taken years to be able to get it to that point, but it really is, we try to make it as idiot proof as possible. Because it's tough. Like there's so many, all these businesses have so many tech layers that they're trying to run with, whether it's, their POS or their back of house management or their ticketing platform. We really are trying to make this an easy transition for them, where it's not adding a bunch of resources on top of what they're already spending.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What are you seeing? I know that, well, there's some numbers on here, but maybe you can speak to like in some ways, and we can't get quite in all the details of some of this stuff, but at the bottom on the website here, you indicate some things around revenue increase and staffing costs, which is great to see too. And then on the other side, like consumer spend, they're a little bit happier on the thumbs. So what do you guys normally see there for increases and decreases in that slide?
When we started like rolling this out, we've done a lot of research, especially when we were starting the company, and what we were seeing from other mobile provider or companies like Amazon, for example, was that people's card size was about 20% bigger on their phone on the app versus on the computer or in person, which is interesting. And so what we've been able to do is isolate a similar data point where we've seen about ticket sizes or chit sizes go up by about 20% when people use their phones. And there's a couple of reasons for that. And obviously the first one is it's just so much easier, right? When you're sitting in your seat, getting a second beer or a third beer, or a third hot dog. You can, you don't have to have that debate in your head of like, oh, do I want to wait in line again? Right. So it removes a lot of that friction. And that's the first thing. And the second thing has to do with decision pressure. So there's a lot of data right now with companies like McDonald's and A&W, for example, where they put these kiosks into their restaurants. And, we were fortunate enough to talk with the former CFO of one of the major fast food chains, and he saw a 30% ticket price increase when people were using the boards to order. And what he was saying is that there's a lot of psychology that goes behind, when people are lined up and they panic when they're trying to order, they'll order less. Whereas if they feel comfortable and they're not rushed, they'll actually take the time, go through all the different menu items, and they'll actually order more. And so we're kind of having that similar thing with phones, where people are in a relaxed environment, and they're actually able to just kind of sit back and order what they want at their own pace. And we are seeing, the average kind of chip price, we call it, go up by about 20 to 22%. And on the flip side, Canada and North America specifically, we are struggling with staff shortages, right? A lot of these, whether it's a hotel or a stadium, are really struggling to actually staff it to the level that they were staffing at, kind of pre-COVID, 2018, 2019. And so, what we're really able to do on the back end is help kind of streamline kind of 20 to 30% of the interaction, right? Take hotel room service, for example. Instead of needing a staff to be constantly picking up the phone, it can go right to the kitchen and the cooks are able to just do the orders right away. And then you just have your runner bring them up. So we are kind of streamlining that part of it. We work with some restaurants, and they're able to cut back some of their staffing as well, because, their staff can focus on service and they can ask people how their day is going, but they're not having to take orders. They're not having to, bill people out on the way out. So really it does allow, a lot of these clients that we work with to kind of repurpose their staff in a way that's a lot more efficient without kind of sacrificing the service as well, right? You still have people interaction, but we're just removing kind of the 20, 30% of the interaction that's either annoying because you're waiting or just doesn't need to happen at all. And so that's kind of what we're doing on that point. And it does, lead to some savings, and it does allow staff to kind of do their jobs a little bit better, and they now know their guests a little bit better as well. So a lot of that's, kind of shifting in a way where we are trying to help these businesses kind of keep their service level up, even though they're not able to staff it like they were able to, 3-4 years ago.
That's awesome. That is really great. I'm just like taking another gander here. I know that there is a lot more to the story here too. Over the last 3 to 4 years, what has happened with you guys? Do you want to walk the listener through that? I know it's quite detailed, so share what you can, or whatever can into the episode here. But
it's been great. It's been a very interesting ride for sure. My hairline's receding a lot faster than I think it should be.
Get out of here.
I found a couple of gray hairs in my beard, so it's a grind. But no, so essentially when we started earlier, obviously in 2019, our goal was really the stadium space, hotel space. So essentially sports and entertainment and hospitality. And our first kind of test we had lined up was with an American Hockey League team in April of 2020. So obviously for us, that never happened. March 2020 came around. We were building out our tech. We'd raised a little bit of money, which was great. And we were pretty much told that you're going to have to wait because nobody was investing in tech. People weren't going to stadiums. People weren't traveling. And so we actually, as a company, decided to repurpose our tech for a couple of years. So when COVID happened, we had an ordering software that could be mirrored as a real app. So everything that's, even though it's a web app, we just kind of shifted it over to a native app. And what we were seeing is that a lot of our local businesses in Ottawa were struggling to get things to people. Whether it's, retail, whether it's food and beverage, a lot of these smaller businesses were getting crushed by like Amazon or Uber Eats, or a lot of these, massive conglomerates that, were charging a lot. And so we actually built out a third-party marketplace. We called it Getit Local. And we, we were able to keep, hundreds of thousands of dollars in our local economy. We moved a lot of goods. I think we did like 100,000 transactions over a couple of years. We helped 220 businesses in Ottawa and in Calgary, which was great. Like for us, it allowed us to show that our tech worked, and it allowed us to kind of do a little bit of good while we were, figuring out what we wanted to do and how we wanted to actually be able to go back to the business model, right? So we did that for a couple of years, and our goal was always to go back to the original business model. So when the world started opening up again, we decided to go back to our original model. We kind of shut down the Getit Local arm. We moved the businesses that were using us consistently over to other platforms. And the big thing for us at that point was, how do we navigate this new world, right? There was new competitors that came up in a couple, over kind of those 2 to 3 years. And so we actually decided to merge with a public company out of Vancouver. We saw amazing potential in their tech. Their tech was ahead of ours. And they just needed some help in kind of the sales and branding and marketing department. And so we actually went through a full merger in March of this year, combined both companies into one, which was, it wasn't like, we touched on this a little bit earlier. It wasn't a huge merger. I think, for us in Ottawa, we were 15. I think they were maybe 10. But, mergers are hard, especially when, companies have been fighting. And so we actually went through that. We were able to absorb their tech. We were able to kind of combine both businesses into one. we're still working on consolidating both companies, and it's been 6 months almost. But really for us, it allowed us to get, tech that was 2 years down the we were able to acquire some patents and things like that. And it really kind of supercharged our tech and our integrations. And so, from, almost failing in 2020 to, going through this whole kind of being, we almost called it was almost like a mini Amazon that we built, where like we helped businesses get things to people faster than some of these conglomerates. And our big idea was, you're ordering this, piece of retail, it's already in your city. Why don't you just order it from your city? And that's kind of how it went. And then, with
Very cool.
this merger, we just went back to our bread and butter, and to the business that ultimately my business partner Ryan and I love, which is sports and entertainment, hospitality. We do love that area of business, and so that's why we went back. But yeah, it was definitely quite an interesting couple of years. Navigating shutdowns, not really knowing if we were going to go back into a lockdown again or not. So, and for a point, we kind of ran both, but it did come down to us having to choose kind of which direction we wanted to go, and we picked the. Obviously, we picked the kind of payments and going back towards sports and entertainment and hotels and that side.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Crazy.
I mean, like, what a challenge. Yeah, like you said, like you're selling something into an industry that kind of
Crushed.
lost the pulse for a minute. We came back. We used the paddles, but it's come back extra crazy.
Yeah,
in terms of
COVID was tough, but it's definitely helped with the adoption of our tech, right? Like 4 years ago, QR codes weren't really a big thing, whereas now, like people see QR codes, and it's funny because QR codes have been a big thing in like Asia for like 10 years. They're so much further ahead of us, so it's kind of nice to see people start to adopt technology that is, helping, and it is actually super efficient. It just wasn't something that, for whatever reason, people use in North America. So it was interesting to see that shift, but it, as hard as it was, it has helped with the adoption quite a bit of our software.
That's awesome. You need to integrate this into some of the Taylor Swift concerts or something, man, or the stadium that what's that guy's name? That's all the hype right now.
Oh, Morgan Wallen.
Oh well, no, that's where the football player that she's the Chiefs.
Yeah.
What's his name?
One day, that's the goal. But
yeah, they sold like a bunch more merch because of that right away.
Yeah, right. People are so like hungry for sports and entertainment now again, right? It's like it was 2 years of Netflix basically, so it's kind of, I think people are just excited to go out again, and yeah, there's a lot of hype around. I mean, I'm a Swiftie, so I get it, but it's all good.
Well, I just had to mention, I mean, that seems to be like the thing that I'm seeing on X and social media a lot for like event wise. And I actually had thought about you, and we're leading up to this thing about, I'm like, man, like what else are they gonna, I didn't realize that you guys are doing like physical items. That's really cool. So if you're like mid game, you could order, I don't know, I'm gonna say as far as like even like a jersey.
Like I can remember my dad taking my sister and I to a hockey game and having to like carry around like foam fingers and like jerseys.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has got a lot more patience than I do. I don't know if I would have handled it the way he did, but yeah, if you've got your kids at a game, you just want to get them a jersey. It's so much easier, and we're at a point now where like the price of goods is getting so high that people are willing to pay. Obviously for us, pickup is free, but people are willing to pay an extra couple bucks to get things brought to them, especially if they're paying $400, $500, $600, thousands of dollars for some of these concerts. Being able to actually like pay a little bit more and enjoy the full concert is I think it's a cool hook, and it really does improve the experience.
Yeah, no, I mean, I see this all the way through. You got both sides, so like the stadiums themselves are making more, I'll use this hand so it's on screen, more off that. It's making it easier for the consumer is enjoying more of that time. You don't have to choose the song. I mean, we were just at, well, you mentioned Morgan Wallen. That's where I messaged you from the other day. I was like, yeah, it was a good concert, but there was quite some big lineups there. So I said we could have used tech, but even going there, we kind of took moments to take pee breaks. Even there, we're like, okay, where are we at on the on the list of songs he's going through?
Actually, it's one of the things we are building is like QR codes for pickup in the washrooms, where like when people are waiting to like use the washroom, you order right there, and then it texts you and you pick it up on your way back. Like there's all these things that you can do where you can like eliminate wastage time by like
Interesting.
you're waiting in line anyways to use the washroom. Like why wouldn't you order something?
Right. And then while you're in the washroom, whatever, do your business, wash your hands, get out, go and pick up your thing
Right.
right from there, right on your way back to your seat. That's
Yeah,
very
and
interesting.
that's it, right? But it is just now about rollout and adoption, and it does take time. Even good for good ideas, it takes time for people
Yeah.
to actually. It needs to become a routine, right? People aren't used to using it. People aren't used to being able to, order ahead. Like I use the Starbucks app all the time. I still see people waiting in line, and it's just like, but it's a slow evolution, and eventually it kind of just becomes the norm.
Yeah. Well, then they kind of get you with like the points. I almost try to like to not have some maps on my phone sometimes, but then they get me back because
Yeah,
it's so much easier. And that's how they
it's the
accumulate,
points.
they
I
stack up
collect
on the phone.
stars. I get so happy when I have a free coffee. It like makes my day.
Yeah. Are you guys gonna have like a points thing in the app at some
We
point?
do.
I
We do
guess
have
it's
a
hard.
loyalty system, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
it's something that we inherited with the merger, which is great, and we're kind of making it a little more robust. So what we're working on now, and it's cool. It's like we have our own in-house system, and
Yeah.
but we can also kind of plug in other systems as well, which is kind of cool. But yeah, we do have a loyalty system as well.
Yeah.
But this is an interesting kind of consumer one, right? Where it's like loyalty means that you have to create an account because we have to be able to track it. Whereas like, so
Yeah.
we're kind of building both flows where, if you,
Right.
for example, you live in Winnipeg, you go to a Jets game a lot,
Yeah.
maybe you are willing to, put in a loyalty points, or maybe what's the other
Right.
theater in Winnipeg? Burt Cummings, is that what it's called?
There's the Bert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Bert
even like
comes, yeah.
smaller theaters like that, where hey, maybe you do go every 2 or 3 weeks because you like to watch live music or shows or whatever. You maybe you are willing to add in some loyalty points or integrate
Yeah.
whatever. But maybe if you only go a couple times a year, then you don't want that. You just want to be able to like, hey, I just want to click Apple Pay, text me when it's
Right.
ready. I don't want to give you any information, right? So we're trying to build both flows so that
Yeah.
it actually work properly for people.
That's interesting because a lot of places have gone like stadium wise or are starting to go cashless.
Yeah,
Um, ran into I think it was set up like that the other day when we went there, but actually a couple of systems were down
yeah.
when we were there, and I had said that out loud like kind of like a month before. I'm like, what happens if I don't know something crashes? Like what's going to happen? On that side, I'm sure it's always a worry, right?
Yeah, like we had a client last like weekend that just went by. Their full POS system went down, which like sucks for obviously for us. It's I don't
Yeah,
it's not terrible for us. Like people are using our tech more, but it is true, and that is something that I think is cool about having both a point of sale system and our solution is tech does go down. It happens. We're all reliant on whether it could be anything from like Rogers going out to Square to whoever, right? So the fact that you can have multiple kind of payment methods is, I think, a great kind of redundancy feature for a lot of these bigger enterprises. And
right.
it's hard, like, but it is expensive and it is difficult to build in these redundant systems. But you're right, like it is cashless, but you still have to wait in line and like talk to someone.
Right.
So it's
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
make the experience better. It just gives me less options to pay.
No, no, 100%. I see the time saving there right away all day long. But I think because some of the places are either like heading to be cashless or maybe you're already there, that
Mhm.
makes it a little bit easier to integrate because people are already thinking like a little bit closer to like that level of tech or
Yeah.
where you guys are like kind of heading to versus, or if they are on this Starbucks, like, style mindset or McDonald's. I know that I have like
Mhm.
their app. I rarely get food there. Mostly it's coffee. Actually, through McDonald's.
75 hard or 75 strong, whatever
I
it's
know,
called.
so if I've heard, yeah, I know. So only basically coffee from any place like that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
That's
no, that's awesome. So you got, well, actually, yeah, I've actually seen this on the other site here. I pulled it up on the screen, loyalty perks, um, and then some just like digital dine-in features and different things like that. Um, That's awesome. Is there anything coming up for you guys in the obviously you're doing some more travel and you have to, yeah, kind of keep that for you guys there, a lot more like B2B stuff, but any events that you guys will be attending or maybe you're even a presenter at? I don't
Yeah,
know.
no presenter yet. I haven't crossed that point. Maybe one day. No, I mean there's a big conference in Ottawa called SAS North that we usually try to go to. And that's always
Awesome.
a great place to see kind of other tech as well. So that's a huge one for us. It's in November. But really, so there's that one, and then the other one that we're really excited for is it's a huge fundraiser in Ottawa. It's called Fight for the Cure. Probably one of the biggest galas here. We're fortunate enough to be helping them with their tech, but it raises a ton of money for cancer. You get to watch kind of professionals around the city box each other, which is kind of cool too. So
yeah, we have that here.
But yeah, really for us right now, we are kind of head down, onboarding clients, just trying to push the envelope a little bit. But yeah, like it's crazy. Obviously it is event season right now, but it'll be Christmas before you know it, and we'll all be kind of, sipping hot chocolate by the fire. So, but yeah, big thing for us now is it's more just kind of internal travel and more B2B stuff, and hopefully we have more time kind of for more events in the new year and all that.
Awesome. What about in terms of like where is your product available today? I know you mentioned like Canada. Sounds like Canada for sure. States, you're available down there too?
Currently, we're only in Canada, but we have some clients that we're starting to prospect and hopefully launch within the States in the new year, which is super exciting. Like the U.S. is a huge market. There's just so much opportunity. Yeah. Canada's great, and it's a great place to start and launch your company. But obviously going to the U.S. is a huge milestone. So the company that we merged with has subsidiaries set up in the U.S. So it's pretty seamless for us now to actually be able to launch into the U.S. But it is something we're working on. The cool thing too is there's a lot of great programs for entrepreneurs to help them actually launch abroad. So we're kind of navigating that right now. But the U.S. is the market that we're going to be launching in the new year. So that's super exciting. But we're pretty much all Ontario now. And I mean, it's so that's kind of where we're available now. But yeah, the U.S. is something that we have our sights on for 2024.
Oh, that's very exciting. And yeah, that'll definitely be like just a game changer in terms of the volume. I mean, Canada fits in one state most of the time.
I think but yeah, and it's like Americans do have different like spending patterns than Canadians.
Right.
They have 10 times the population and they spend more. So it is a market we're excited for, but there's a lot of opportunity in Canada, and it's no one's kind of spearheading that market right now. So we do see a lot of opportunity focusing here too.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then once people start using this thing and they see it in other venues, hopefully, it just becomes so much of the norm that whether you're local here, in my case, Winnipeg here, or traveling somewhere else, you can use it.
Yeah, like the U.S. does have better adoption. They're just a little more advanced when it comes to tech too, right? So I am curious to see kind of what the adoption is at a Canadian stadium versus what it looks like at an American stadium. And obviously, it varies like state to state, right? Like I'm sure Kansas or Arkansas or whatever is probably a lot different than California as kind of adoption, but same goes in Canada. But it is people are a little more advanced, but what that means a little more competition as well for us. So it is having to balance that as well.
That's awesome. And I think maybe just point this out, the best way to find you guys outside of listening to us here is one, we mentioned the website, which is getittechnologies.io. As well. Nailed it this time. And as well, you guys spend a lot of time or more time on LinkedIn in terms of connecting on there. If it is a business, that's a great way to find you guys. Although you are also on Instagram and Facebook, but LinkedIn or the website, you do have a contact us button on here and at the bottom. Yeah. So if anyone's interested, that's why I have it on here just in case. It's a good reference point.
You never know, like you do get inbound leads every once in a while as well. Like we really made it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, you can book a demo right here at the bottom. Have a question, first name, last name, email, and message. So if anyone does want to book that with you, that's how they would find you. So
thank you, marketing. That was a good one.
There you go. That's awesome. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to snip in here at the end.
This has been awesome. I appreciate you getting me on this podcast here. But it's really cool. Like I'm looking at some of your other podcasts, it is really nice to be able to listen to other entrepreneurs as well. So if there are anybody else building anything, please reach out on LinkedIn, connect. It is, I always joke that my LinkedIn do take a bit of time to get back because my inbox is a little flooded, but it is like an awesome place to connect, and like please do reach out and don't be afraid.
That's awesome. I'm glad you included that, and thanks so much for making time. I know that we're fitting this in into the evening here on this particular day, but we really appreciate it, and we're excited to get the episode out.
Awesome. Cheers, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, Ben.